Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Marketing 101 for Small Business Owners podcast. This is our special series called the MoCo Business Buzz. And it's actually been a few months since we've done one. So I'm excited to finally get back to this. This is where I get an opportunity to meet and get closer connected with some of our local businesses here in Montgomery County, give them the opportunity to share about who they are, what they do, and talk a little bit about some marketing stuff. So today I have Wendy Iglehart.
Iglehart, yes.
Yes, who has
Perfect.
been my first victim in a while to come on the show. So Wendy, thank you so much for being brave and showing up. Please share who you are, what you do, and what you offer our community.
Sure. Again, my name is Wendy Iglehart, and I'm a psychotherapist. I have my private practice in Gaithersburg. I'm fairly new to the area. I relocated from Baltimore County, where I had a brick and mortar office for several years. And when I moved here, it was during COVID. So I still had a telehealth practice.
Yes.
So I just thought, I should be okay doing a telehealth. People are used to that. And people really started to want to resume in person.
Yeah.
So I moved forward in getting a brick and mortar office a few months ago. And unfortunately, because of marketing, um, like the cyber all of a sudden just kind of wiped me out when I
Mm,
relocated. So
yeah.
I'm pretty much starting very new in the area
Yes.
and developing my clientele here. And what's interesting about a private practice is people don't necessarily think of it as a business. Um, Therapists are used to getting their referrals from insurance companies.
Yeah.
And several years ago, people started to discontinue taking insurance as providers
Yeah.
because insurance companies just weren't making us competitive. They weren't raising the rates for service, and they were also delaying reimbursement. And it just was really making it challenging to run a
Okay.
business. And I ventured off and decided that I was going to be a fee for service. And I submerged myself into marketing, had to develop a website and understand search engine optimization and content, which was completely foreign to me.
Yes.
I wrote a business plan for a year before I opened up my practice, which is even unheard of with therapists.
Yeah.
People just are kind of used to the idea of hanging out our shingle and starting to see people,
And people just
and
come. Yeah.
and people just come, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
And even in that, there was a trend in this. We just had to put our profile up on big software hub portals like Psychotherapy Today,
Yeah.
goodtherapy.org, um, and it just really didn't even help
Mm.
generate business either, because it was just a catch-all for people and it was quite overwhelming for people to find you. So I decided to really start just networking face to face with people and joining network groups and events. And I'm very relationship driven. That's
Yeah.
even how I practice with people. And I just find that that really is true to my roots and who I am, and what my vision is,
Yeah.
and how I work with people. So that's been a little bit of my history as far as marketing.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. One thing I know, I recently had a conversation. So it's so good to hear you share your transformation from moving from working with insurance companies to be more pay for service. Because I had a conversation on the other side of, saying how, yeah, it's so hard to find therapy. And this is probably a whole nother show all in itself, because it's hard to find people who are willing and able to work with insurance. And so now understanding why on your side, why it's so hard to work with insurance and why it's not an option for clients that,
Hmm.
does it make it better? No, because, in a perfect world, the insurance companies would be doing, working with you to make it a smooth process. That way we could work with people who need the services and only have insurance and don't have out of pocket money. But again, that's a whole nother conversation, but it does help me understand now from the inside perspective what's going on.
Sure. Yes. And also, even from a consumer
Yeah.
perspective, too, people don't necessarily even understand how to use their insurance.
Yep.
So when they do make phone calls to see if there's coverage for mental health, which by law, most employers are supposed to now offer that
Yes.
component of
Yeah.
coverage. So when people are calling, and even if they need to use their insurance or if they find out that you're a fee for service, how to even approach their insurance company for reimbursement. So a
Yes.
lot of even what I end up doing too is just educating, even though they may not become my client,
Yeah.
because I just feel that it's just such a challenge because we're now all put into this situation that's very foreign to us, even though this has been the trend for probably close to 2 decades,
Yeah. And I
as therapists and
yeah.
consumers.
And I imagine as the user, not everybody has been jumping, I want a therapist. It's like, this is so cool. It's more of like it's a tough time. It's something, a lot of times they're facing a tough situation. So to be faced with now a navigate, having to navigate the system and seeing how they can get the help. It's just like, I could see some people chopping off and not making the work and effort to do it and just say, I'll just deal with it on my own. So thank you
Yeah.
for your service and thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that.
you're right. People do come and seek service when they're not feeling their best and they're in crisis. And that's also a hard thing too, because usually people who do take insurance have such a wait list,
Yes. Yeah.
and that even when they finally get chance to be seen, the frequency isn't there because
Yeah.
they're so booked.
Yeah.
So you might only be seen every other week or less, and that doesn't really help you either.
Yeah.
So it is obviously, like you said, a broken system, and we're all trying to understand, where everybody's coming from as a consumer and a business owner,
Yeah.
and and even in that, I've even as a therapist, they talk about. Well, adding on extra expertise so that way you can buffer yourself for the economy and if there's trends, because I I've been slammed. Of course, I opened my practice in 2007, just when the market
Yeah.
crashed.
Yeah.
And I I just couldn't believe, I'm like, really? I can't, and then even in 2016, there was some rough spots there because of the economy. So
Yes.
I always kind of added extra things in my hat that I could pull from, like supervision, publishing, teaching,
Yeah.
being a certified collaborative divorce coach, and
So you're being
having
an
those.
entrepreneur.
Yes, yes, and that's kind of where I think, tying into being creative and
Yeah.
being able to be competitive and desirable in as a small business.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So, and I know you shared in your journey of your business coming from Baltimore, having a more robust system at your disposal, and then basically starting from scratch now here in Montgomery County. So, either part of the journey, can you have like a marketing success you would like to share that you would love to be able to replicate and keep doing over and over again?
Sure. Actually, one of the best sources of referrals for me was a psychiatrist that I subleased from.
Okay.
Um, he was also fee for service, and I it was just somehow I just stumbled upon him. He had an office to rent, and I was, looking at office space, and we kind of sized each other up because to be honest with you, like psychiatrists and we kind of, I
Yeah.
worked with some, I'm like, but also a therapist, he was kind of sizing me up too because he was like, and it turns out that we both, really love what we do and we love to learn and to be challenged. And he gave me some really solid referrals and vice versa. And it just really behooved us to
Yeah.
not just share the space, but to be able to collaborate together as far as the referrals. And that was definitely, my mainstream of referrals.
Yes.
So when he retired, that's when I fell back onto being into telehealth. And even during COVID, my business just took off. So many people were in crisis during COVID
Mm,
and very scared, which I understand.
yeah.
And I didn't even really need a referral source. People just were
They found.
coming and finding me online. And I've been through several marketing business people that were in charge of my website, search engine optimization, even working with Google,
Yeah.
and it just was never really successful. So when I relocated here, I knew kind of starting from the grassroots, that I went into, even with Baltimore County when I first started, I
Yeah.
went to different businesses with little
Yeah.
gift bags and
Yeah.
introduced myself,
Yeah.
and just really started to know people in the community. So that's where I am now too. I'm part of the Chamber of Commerce now.
Oh,
I
good.
officially joined.
Which one?
I'm sorry, which one?
Which
Oh,
neighbors?
the Germantown Gaithersburg.
Yay!
Yes, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Lovely group of people,
Yes.
and I look forward to reaching out and hearing more about the local area and the community.
Oh, awesome.
So definitely getting some solid referral bases, like with doctors or psychiatrists, is
Yes.
something that was it's just, it's irreplaceable,
Okay. Okay, that
to
is
do
good.
that.
Yeah.
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 And also just, kind of working with my website and getting the search engines, I hear people call it the algorithm gods, to,
Yes. Yes.
yes, to love me again.
I I wanna call it the algorithm demon. I
I
feel
like
like
that
yeah,
better actually, because
yes.
I'm like, who are you? How do you
Yes.
not like me anymore? I
I
just moved. Like,
I feel like both for the user and the businesses, I feel like it's not really working. It sounds good on paper, but,
yes.
like, I don't feel like as I explore, as I'm just going on social media for myself,
Hmm.
I'm not liking how it's working for me, and as a business, it's like, oh, it's never worked for me."
Right. Yes. And you keep being told, this is what you should do. This is what you should
Yeah,
do. Go onto this. Go, which platform do your, consumers use? And I'm like, even with reviews, I was getting pushed to ask for reviews,
yeah,
and I resisted for a year because I'm like, how are you going to rate a relationship?
yes, and
5 star, four
yeah,
star?
and how do you as a client who's supposed to be confidential for you, like, how do you know, are your clients gonna be willing to say, "Yes, I've been doing therapy, everybody, look at my review."
Right.
Yeah,
And that we kind of got around that because there was a platform that we were able to use where you could be anonymous
okay,
like on in public.
yeah,
However, your information was still posted, in behind the scenes on the back
mhm,
end, right? So
yes,
it's not
yeah,
really confidential. Um, so that platform no longer exists. So
oh,
now it's only Google or
yeah,
Yelp, right? So
yeah,
there you have to post your information.
yeah,
So I actually, just out of ethical obligation on my part, like I just could not ask for referrals and like reviews anymore.
yeah.
And people wrote lovely things and they couldn't wait to read them to me because
Well,
it was
one
so personal.
Well, one way, rather than putting them on Google, you could still take that feedback and on your website do it completely anonymously. Put the little gray talking head, maybe
Yes,
say female, age so and so, and then what they said.
right.
So there's complete, you know who they are because they're your clients, but nobody else would be able to know who that person is. So that you could
Yes.
still use them a little bit in your strategy.
And it has been part of my strategy. They are on my website and they are anonymous and all of that.
Good.
But it doesn't drive clicks or
Yeah.
conversions, right?
Yeah.
Like who knew as a therapist that I would know all this jargon?
Yes. Most don't. So it's really good that you're taking that effort to really understand what's going on. So that's good.
Yeah, as confusing as it is.
Yes.
So even doing the things that you're advised to do, like you were just saying about social media and getting plenty of reviews and getting those conversions and doing search engine optimization campaigning, and
Yeah.
I I've done all this,
Yeah.
and it's never been something where I'm like, this is, oh yeah, this
Yeah.
gets it. It goes back to the community
Yes.
and knowing where you are and who's in the area and how you can best serve them.
Oh, that's so good. So I know you said a lot of stuff that of the struggles with marketing. So would are any of those like your main struggle, or do you have another marketing struggle that you face that you want to overcome?
Well, I could tell you one that completely flopped in the past,
Okay.
which I learned when I first became a collaborative divorce coach. A lot of people didn't know what that was,
Yeah.
or even what it means. So I wanted to educate other professionals in my field about what it was and letting them know that if they have any clients that are going through divorce, that this could be a better option or at
Yeah.
least a contender to go through such a difficult transition in time.
Yeah.
So I paid to have postcards made and had my information on them, did the call to action, contact me and I'll go for a cup of coffee. Crickets.
Ah,
Crickets. I
okay.
don't even know who read it, like crickets. And so it's again, I think it just those I even had somebody contact me to want me to do those coupons, that you put in the mailers with
Yeah.
like, I was like, no, I'm like, what are you going to do? Like, use the roofer and, gutter guard and then come see me? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. That wouldn't make sense for that. And it sounds like your target audience for those and who you really sent that to were other professionals in the
yes.
industry and saying, "Hey, if you have a client going through this, this is what we can do." I'm wondering, it sounds like because it sounds like an awesome service. And I feel like what's potentially happened during that campaign is a lot of people saw that and said, "Oh, I could offer that service myself." And then just didn't, didn't reach out to you. They just added it on.
I
You
made
gave
more competition.
yeah, you gave them an idea. It's like so it sounds like maybe the audience for that is more of like the people who need it. And then a small group of your network, like so for instance, the person you were sharing a space with,
Mhm.
um, other professionals that you know, like and trust, rather than everybody hoping for, a connection. Because
Right, right, right. But I think the biggest struggle, honestly, is the social media for me.
is
I
it let's see, let's narrow that down. Is it um creating enough content, or is it coming up with the ideas for the content, or all the above?
Well, a few things. So, before I had an arrangement where I posted, I actually wrote a blog, and it was okay, like it didn't generate anything
Mhm.
again. So then I went to a different marketing agency who did again, did a different website. And what they did was they actually had compiled pre-written blogs, about
Okay.
depression or what to do around the holidays. And so part of the service was you could go through and click which ones you wanted to have posted and determine the day and time that, you wanted them to be posted with your website.
Yeah.
And again, it didn't really generate anything. But I was like, well, as long as I don't have to write it, it looks good on the website, or
Yeah.
I'm doing something. And I've had other people recommend that I do small videos and post them on social media. And the concern about that is with my credentials, I have a lot of limitations as far
Mhm.
as like what I could do that could be construed as just kind of in bad taste. Like if I were to post something, if one of my former customers or patients reads it or hears it, they might think that it's about them,
Yeah.
and it's kind of frowned upon. So
Mhm.
how do we do psychoeducation? How do we do those things in a place where, and I'm pretty reserved about this, like a
Yeah.
lot of other people aren't, but I feel like I worked hard for my credentials and I don't I don't want to be in a position where I'm questioned or doubted. So that's one of the hardest things for me is um, you know how how do we can how do we do psychoeducation, and how do we make it where therapists do have the accessibility to marketing just
Yeah.
like other
Yeah.
professionals. That's the And my board is it does not do very well with that. Like they're kind of in the stone age. It's never really kind of come up with our policies.
Yeah.
and our prequels. So it's a fine line that, I feel like I'm kind of dancing on.
Yeah.
And even self-disclosure, if I post something, I can say things, like along where I am in my journey or what's going on and tie that in, knowing, that my patients are reading this
Yeah.
about me,
Yeah.
and that, and so it's just been kind of that part of how do we use this in my field appropriately, legally,
Yeah.
in a way that is going to be useful.
Yeah, I can imagine that is definitely a tough one. I know financial advisors have a similar thing where they have a lot of red tape that limits the way they can show up on social media. And so I have some of the ideas as I love whoever said, to show up on video. That's my new best friend. Because I would definitely agree with them on that point because, you know, when somebody decides to work with a therapist, I'm learning more and more. Um, that person they want to have an intimate, obviously they're going to have an intimate relationship with this person, and it needs to be somebody that they feel comfortable with and that they enjoy the energy and the vibes that this person has. So to be able to show up in social media before they even make that first connection with you and get a taste of your style, your personality, the way you talk, even sometimes for some people the tone of voice somebody has, it will be could be a trigger of whether or not they like them or really dislike the person. So
Yes.
to be able to have that opportunity to show up in that way and present yourself in a way that people are going to be like, oh yes, I really like the ways that she talks. I like she's very calm. It's soothing. I would love to be able to have that as I'm sharing my issues. So to find a way to be able to find the right content, just like you're saying, what are the messages that you can safely share in a way that it's not salesy, it's not sleazy, and it's not revealing information that you shouldn't.
Right.
Um, what are in a perfect world, one scenario I would think of is yeah, let's find a way where we can do a post every single Tuesday. Every Tuesday we would do another video. But we can, but we know there's 52 Tuesdays in the year most of the time. How the calendar works. So it's like, okay, what 52 topics could we come up with? And then maybe we just fold them up, put them in a jar, and then we pull out a card and say, okay, this is what we're doing this week. Or, pull out four for the month and just record four in one setting. So you're done for the month. But it's like, okay, what are those topics?
Hmm.
What can you safely share? So maybe some tips on how, for many people, meditation is a huge part of getting in the right state of the mind, starting the day with like
Mm.
10 minutes of meditation. I
Hmm.
feel like that would be a safe way, obviously going deeper into that and maybe giving some medication tips if that's in line with, what you would normally say. But I feel like that would be a safe way to present information. That may be something that you tell everybody, not just one person.
Right.
Um, so giving tips of ways people could help manage themselves at home before they even met you, considering you want to make the assumption that somebody seeing your social media post has never actually talked to you yet. That
Hmm.
way they're kind of getting a glimpse into the value that you're going to offer them. um, so you're not giving away too much information. Obviously they need to talk to you or somebody on a more deeper level, but you're giving them enough information to survive.
Yes, yes. And also even like which platform to use,
Yes,
because
yeah,
now there's just so many. And um, one of the key things that I've been hearing about is to find out which social media your clientele uses. Like,
yeah,
where is your target?
yeah,
And to be honest with you, I have no idea where my target is because
yeah,
I am so removed and so disenchanted that one of my coping skills is to just avoid.
yeah. Well, I have an Empower Her program I can walk you through.
I love it. I love it. I walked right into that.
Yeah. But yeah, that for me, that is the fun part of because I feel like on the surface, you're saying, I don't know who that target audience is. But I feel like once we have the right conversations, we have the right questions, it's going to come out. And
Yes.
you probably do have that ideal person who would be the perfect client if every client could be this person.
Hmm.
And so it's just, yeah, it's a fun exercise to go through that and kind of
Yeah, it
nail
sounds
it
like
down.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I first started and I was working with my web page, my website designer, and she
Yeah.
said, "Okay, I need you to think of some SEO words." And I looked at her, I'm like, what? Like I really had no idea. And so I thought about it and I even like looked up like search engine optimization, what's that? And
Yeah.
I really just even finding those keywords, that people are looking up. I've I've had people I've paid money like in Google Ads,
Hmm.
hardcore money, and people are finding me in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I can't. You're in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I can't see you.
Yeah.
So I think you're right to be able to just kind of funnel down just the ideal and then look at the location and just know how to fine tune.
Yeah.
I think would be is the best thing and the best way. And that's what you're saying that you do, that you're able to get that
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Draw out that clarification so you know which platform to go to, you know who you're talking to. I think that's really learning the hard way sometimes though. Just, when you're first starting your business, just getting out the first like 3 or 4 years, you're kind of are talking to everybody. You may not really have a full understanding. So it's something that develops over time. So don't feel like you have to have it coming out the door. But it's like, okay, after a few years of like, I've been helping people now and I've really enjoyed this type of person.
Hmm.
I want to have more of these people. And then we start saying, okay, well, how do those people talk? Where do they go? And that's how we
Yeah.
start narrowing down. So
And I
yeah.
really appreciate how you brought in that learning curve
Yeah.
because I think a lot of times, particularly when we're starting off as a small business, there's this expectation that we should have everything just so
Yeah.
and that we shouldn't adapt or be flexible.
Yeah.
And I even remember, um, in previous agencies where I worked, there was so much paperwork, and
Yeah.
it was ridiculous. And so I kind of had to almost be deinstitutionalized in that.
Yeah.
And I had so much paperwork, and I remember kind of thinking to myself, why? It's not necessary, but
Yeah.
I should do this, right? So even in that small business mindset, kind of even getting that clarification of your choices. Where
Yeah.
is this coming from? Is this coming from fear? Is this coming from something that doesn't serve you
Yeah.
anymore? Like how can we make one of the best things I ever heard was when you're making a decision, you have to make a decision out of love.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you make a decision out of fear, then it's going to be the wrong decision.
Yeah. I love
So
that. That is
it
so
it 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 just really resonated with me
yeah.
before, and because when I was looking at office spaces, I had the real estate agent like, I have lots of people looking at this space. I was actually just looking because I wanted to understand what a square foot was. And I really love how you just really kind of said there's a sense of grace in this,
Yes.
particularly
Yes.
when you're just starting out. And it doesn't mean that you failed or did something wrong. It That's the beauty of having your own business,
Yep.
to be honest with you.
It's yours to be able to try and test out different things and find out. It's going to take a little bit to find that comfort zone of, okay, this is even with your services, with your audience, with the way you deliver, all of it is going through like this. You're massaging it. You're
Yeah.
trying different things. And so, yes, don't
Yeah.
feel bad that you don't fit into the mold that somebody else told you you should fit in.
And I'm kind of a rebel. And I squirm and I just, like I said, it took me a year before I finally conceded about asking for reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it did work to some extent where people contacted me and said, I read your reviews,
Yeah.
and but that was also when I was able to use that platform where it could be anonymous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after that, I just honestly could not do that anymore. So
Yeah.
you're right. Like as soon as you kind of concede to a place where you never ever wanted to go as a small business, it's just going to set you up because you're going
Yeah.
to be angry and resentful.
Yep.
And I just feel like that yes, the business is this, workplace around me and all of that, but there's also this sense that it's a part of me.
Yeah.
Like this is my
Yep.
fingerprint.
Yes. Yes.
And
It's
I think
not
that's
you,
what.
but it's a part of you.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. And I think that that's what the cool thing is about being a business,
Yeah.
a small business,
Yep.
is that you get to kind of be this vulnerable person,
Yeah.
and have people say, "Oh my gosh, this is who you are." You got to pick the colors and you got to pick your font on your business cards and you get to decide what services you want to offer. Like that's very
Yeah.
personalized too.
Yes. Yep. The pace in which you grow, it's all based on
Yes.
what you're ready for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, good. Wendy, it was so good to get to have this conversation. Thank you again for being brave and coming and being the first MoCo Business Buzz. I think this is the first one in 2024. My last ones kind of were like end of like the fall season last year. So this has
Yes.
been great.
Well,
Please, I want
thank
to
you.
make sure everybody who's listening can follow up with you. So please let them know how to reach you and learn more about you.
Sure. My website is Wendy Iglehart, Iglehart.com. And please feel free to peruse the website. You actually are going to see a video of me on the website introducing myself. It is actually another podcast where somebody interviewed me.
Nice.
And you could submit, a contact form. You can call me at 443-824-0222 and leave me a voicemail. I get back to you within 24 hours. I mean, and that surprises people, if not the same day. They're
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, thank you for calling me back so soon. And I take a lot of pride on that. Again,
Oh,
just
good.
like you were saying, people are calling you because they're not happy. And to feel like nobody's responding is just to me, it makes me cringe to
Yes.
to hear that people go through that.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you again for that, and just for sure for your kind heart and spirit. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, and I can't wait to hear more about what you do too.
Yeah. Awesome.
All
Well,
right.
thank you everybody for listening. You will hear next week, Wednesday, another lesson, a regular marketing strategy lesson. And if we have some more MoCo Business Buzz episodes, I can't wait to bring them to you. So otherwise, you guys have a great weekend.